Welcome to Revenge Echoes, where stories speak louder than revenge. What you're about to hear might sound like fiction, but for someone out there, it's the truth they never got to tell. My name is Kesha Monroe. I'm 32 years old. And this is the story of how a single letter, held in silence on a cold Christmas morning, shattered decades of betrayal and forced my family to finally see what they tried so hard to erase. I was born in Providence, Rhode Island, the second child after my brother, Marcus. If you met my family at church or during one of their overly curated Christmas parties, you'd think we were the perfect unit: two loving parents, two beautiful children, a house with a swing set out back, and a golden retriever named Sandy. But if you stayed long enough, just long enough to hear the way my name was said, or more often, left unsaid, you'd realize I was never really in the picture. Literally. One year, they cropped me out of the family Christmas card because my blue hoodie didn't match their beige and burgundy theme. I was 14. At first, I protested. Then I got used to the feeling, being the forgotten one. Every year, Marcus got the newest sneakers, the biggest gifts, the loudest applause at the dinner table. One Christmas, he got a new laptop. I got an ironing board. "So you can help around more," my mother had said, smiling like she'd done me a favor. I was 16. There were moments where I questioned myself. Maybe I was too sensitive. Maybe I wasn't trying hard enough. But deep down, I knew this wasn't love. This was erasure, wrapped in forced politeness and fake family dinners. The worst part? I didn't even hate them. I just wanted them to notice me. When I was 12, I started showing signs of depression. My school counselor, Mrs. Alvarez, called my mom, suggesting therapy. My mom's response was flat and cold: "She's not sad. She just needs to stop comparing herself to her brother." I remember sitting on the porch that night, bundled in a hoodie, feeling invisible in my own home while Christmas lights blinked cheerfully across the street. I stayed invisible through high school, except in one place: computers. I didn't talk much, but I could write code like second language. One stormy afternoon, I stumbled into the tech club by accident. Mr. Garrett, the math teacher who ran it, asked if I'd ever written Python before. I hadn't. "Perfect," he said, "you're a blank slate." That was the first time someone saw me as something other than a burden. I found refuge in that dusty room. While Marcus practiced for basketball championships and received standing ovations from the community center, I was debugging login scripts and building basic security firewalls. I applied to Rochester Institute of Technology without telling a soul at home. My parents didn't ask where I applied. They were too busy preparing for Marcus' recruitment trip to UCLA. When I got my acceptance letter, with a full-ride scholarship in computer science, I read it alone, sitting on the cracked steps of our back porch. No champagne. No hugs. Just me, a cold sandwich, and a dream that suddenly felt real. I left that September with 2 duffel bags and $400 I saved from tutoring kids in algebra. In college, I worked night shifts at a Thai takeout, studied by day, and poured every ounce of myself into a world that finally had rules I could trust. You see, code is honest. It fails loudly and clearly, unlike family, where failure is quiet and cruel. I graduated with honors. Not a single family member showed up. They didn't even know. I didn't send an invitation. After graduation, I landed a job with Onyx Vault, a cybersecurity firm expanding rapidly. My starting salary was $120,000. I rented a studio apartment in Boston's Jamaica Plain and began my life, one that wasn't dictated by being Marcus's sister or the weird girl with no social life. I was a woman with purpose, clarity, and peace. Then, last year, after nearly a decade of silence, I got a call. It was my cousin Talia. The only family member who ever called me by my name instead of mumbling her. She was quiet, hesitant. "Kesha," she said. "Aunt Renee wants you home for Christmas. Everyone's going to be there. Marcus is bringing his new wife and baby. Your mom asked for you by name. I paused. Not because I was touched, but because I knew this wasn't about love. This was about a photo. A complete family image. Marcus, the dad. His baby, the future. And me, the missing piece they only remembered when the puzzle felt empty. I almost declined. But then I looked at a note taped to my fridge, one I wrote to myself at 18, the best revenge is living well, while they stay trapped in their own lies. I said yes. I didn't return as a daughter. I returned as a woman they couldn't erase. The drive to Providence was quiet. A soft flurry of snow traced its way across the windshield as I left Boston behind. I had rented a black SUV, not flashy, but clean and solid. Something about arriving in silence but in strength felt fitting. I didn't call ahead. I didn't ask what room I'd be sleeping in. I already knew the answer. Some corner of a couch, maybe a throw blanket if they remembered I existed. The Monroe house hadn't changed. Same white siding, same cracked porch steps. The wreath on the front door was faded and missing half its pine cones, like someone had put it up out of obligation. I stood for a second, staring at the house that held every memory I spent 10 years trying to forget. Then I rang the bell. Marcus opened the door. Still tall, still dressed like the world owed him something. This time in a navy sweater with a gold Rolex peeking from under the cuff. Well, look who decided to show up, he said with a grin that had no warmth. Kesha the coder. Or should I say hacker now? I smiled faintly. Hi, Marcus. Congrats on the baby. He blinked, clearly not expecting courtesy. Yeah. Thanks. Come in, I guess. He stepped aside. I wheeled in my suitcase, holding the gift box carefully in my other hand. Inside were the presents I'd spent hours picking out for each family member. Thoughtful, high quality, customized. Because unlike them, I paid attention. The house smelled of pine candles and reheated ham. The furniture hadn't changed since high school, but the tension in the air felt new. My mom emerged from the kitchen like a ghost from my past. Still wearing a floral apron, her hair pulled back in rollers. Kesha, she gasped. Oh my God, it's really you. I nodded. Hi, Mom. She stepped forward as if to hug me, then hesitated, her hands awkwardly falling back to her sides. You look different. I had grown out of everything she used to criticize. The frizzy hair now smoothed and curled in soft waves. The braces long gone. The thrift store clothes replaced with a soft wool coat that hugged my frame like a quiet kind of armor. You can stay on the couch, she said quickly, pointing toward the same spot I slept the night after they made me give up my room for Marcus's business planning. We didn't know if you were really coming. Of course, I said, placing my bag gently on the floor. I wouldn't want to inconvenience anyone. Dinner was loud, chaotic, even, but I wasn't part of it. They'd set the table for 10. I was number 11. So, without comment, I found myself at the end again. Near the counter. A spot that was clearly improvised. The seat wasn't even cushioned. I didn't complain. Marcus stood up mid-meal to toast himself. Big pitch tomorrow, he announced proudly. If the investors buy in, this is the start of the family legacy. My app's going to redefine budgeting. Applause rang out like it was a wedding reception. Even Uncle Terrell stood to clap. My mom wiped away fake tears. I'm so proud of you, she whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear. Then came the questions for Marcus. How did you come up with the idea? Where do you see it going? Will you expand to overseas markets? No one asked me a thing. Even when I casually mentioned I was leading a cybersecurity integration for 3 Northeast banks, my aunt changed the subject to baby formula prices. No one cared. Or maybe they didn't understand. Either way, I learned something important that night. They didn't hate me. They just didn't value me. It was never about resentment. It was about irrelevance. On Christmas morning, I woke early. While the house still slept, I quietly arranged the gifts I had brought. Each was wrapped in thick, high-quality paper, with silver ribbon and personalized tags. Not out of obligation, but intention. A way of saying, I see you, even if they'd never seen me. Marcus got a smart baby monitor and a handmade leather organizer. His wife, Eliza, got a skincare set from Japan, the same brand she'd mentioned once on a cousin's Instagram story. My mom got Italian perfume. My dad, tickets to a jazz concert in Providence. Even Aunt Regina got a cookbook from a Michelin star chef whose videos she binged. I gave them what I'd always wanted to receive, recognition. When they came downstairs, the shock was immediate. Oh, wow, what's all this? Eliza asked, cradling baby Levi on her hip. I smiled. Just something I thought you all might enjoy. My mother gasped as she unwrapped the perfume. This is expensive. Kesha, you shouldn't have. I wanted to. She didn't say thank you. They opened gift after gift, each met with some combination of surprise, delight, and shallow praise. Then the unwrapping ended. And silence began. No one handed me a box. No card. No stocking with my name on it. Just like when I was 10, and they blamed Santa. Marcus chuckled. Hey, remember that Christmas when Kesha cried because she thought Santa forgot her? And Mom said, Santa must have run out of room on the sleigh. The room erupted in laughter. I didn't laugh. I didn't cry. I simply reached into my purse and pulled out a small, polished steel keychain. It sparkled in the morning light. Engraved on it were 4 words. 5th Street, Unit 3C. My mother furrowed her brow. What's that? I held it up. The key to my new place. I closed on a 2-bedroom condo last week. Silence fell across the room like frost. My dad spoke first. Wait, you bought an apartment? Like, a real one? I nodded. With a balcony overlooking the Charles River. Eliza's jaw dropped. Marcus blinked. My mom stood frozen, the perfume bottle still in her hand. With what money? She asked. My bonus from the last cybersecurity contract. After taxes, $145,000. And just like that, the air shifted. I wasn't irrelevant anymore. Now, I was useful. Now, they were calculating. Now, they wanted something. My brother was the first to speak after the silence cracked open like glass under pressure. Wait, so you really made that much? From what? Code? Marcus scoffed the word like it was a joke, as if the same girl who used to sit in the corner fixing the Wi-Fi router was incapable of making more money than his entire startup had seen in 2 years. I stayed seated, my legs crossed, the keychain now resting gently in my palm. Yes, I said quietly. From code. From managing a team of engineers. From solving problems banks don't even want to admit they have. My mother looked at me with wide, confused eyes. Like she had just realized the vase she threw out was made of marble. Kesha, you should have told us sooner. We had no idea you'd done so well. I didn't answer. Because that was the truth. They never asked. Eliza leaned forward, always the social tactician. It must be so rewarding. And probably a little overwhelming too, right? Owning property and all. I nodded. It is. But it feels good. It's mine. That one word, mine, shifted something in my brother's posture. He leaned back, arms crossed, and flashed that grin he used to wear in high school when he wanted something. You know, he said, in a tone dipped in feigned casualness, I've been looking for someone to get in on the ground floor with FinPilot. I raised an eyebrow. That's the app, right? He lit up. Yeah. It's still in beta, but we're close. If you came on board, even just a small stake, like $200,000, that would give us the momentum we need. Investors love seeing family believe in the product. I stared at him. Not with contempt. Not even with anger. Just realization. It was never about family. It was about leverage. And the back end? Is it secure? He hesitated. Well, that's still being built out. But the front end is beautiful. Sleek. Intuitive. I tilted my head. So, you're selling a car without an engine? Eliza jumped in, laughing nervously. Kesha, it's a startup. You know how it is, big ideas need big believers. And family is the best kind of believer. I smiled faintly. Right. My mom cleared her throat, sensing the shift. Kesha, honey, you know we're so proud of you. You've come so far. And it's been hard for Marcus with the baby and all. Maybe you could help. I finally stood. Not abruptly. Not with rage. Just calm, deliberate clarity. No. The room went still. My mother blinked. What do you mean, no? I met her gaze with a steadiness I didn't know I was capable of until that moment. I mean, I'm not giving Marcus money. I'm not investing. I'm not financing a fantasy project to make up for 20 years of being ignored. My dad scoffed. You think this is about the past? I turned to him. It's always been about the past. You just didn't notice because it wasn't your pain. Marcus stood now too, his jaw clenched. Wow. So you make some tech money and suddenly you think you're better than us? I shook my head. No. I just know I'm not less. My mother moved toward me like she wanted to reach out but wasn't sure how. You're still family, Kesha. We're all we have. No, I said softly. You're all you have. I had to build everything from the ground up. Alone. I could see it now. The dawning on their faces that I wasn't playing the part they'd scripted for me. I wasn't the forgotten girl at the end of the table anymore. I was something else now. Something inconvenient. My father exhaled sharply. You're still our daughter. And we raised you. Don't forget that. I smiled. But it wasn't warm. You raised me to disappear. But I learned how to reappear. On my own terms. Then I did what no one expected. I reached into my bag and pulled out a letter. A thick, formal envelope sealed with an embossed logo. What's that? Eliza asked. I held it up for all of them to see. This is a letter from the state auditor's office. My team was just selected to consult on digital fraud detection systems across 3 state agencies. My mom gasped. My dad froze. Marcus's mouth opened, then closed again. And this, I continued, pulling out a second envelope, is a pre-approval for a multi-unit investment property in Beacon Hill. I'm planning to renovate it. Maybe flip it. Maybe turn it into something bigger. I walked to the coffee table, set both envelopes down, then looked around the room. You laughed when I cried at Christmas because I didn't get a gift. But today, I brought the only thing I ever needed, proof. They didn't speak. No jokes. No backhanded compliments. Just silence. And in that silence, I felt something bloom, something stronger than victory. Peace. I turned back to them, my voice steady, resolute. I'll be leaving this afternoon. Don't worry, I brought my own ride. And no, you're not invited to the new place. Not now. Not ever. Then I walked to the couch, picked up my bag, and left the house I once called home for the final time. Snow had begun to fall again by the time I stepped out. It clung to the windshield in soft, delicate flakes, a stark contrast to the heaviness I left behind inside that house. I didn't slam the door. I didn't make a scene. I simply walked out with the calm of someone who no longer owed anyone an explanation. The engine started with a quiet hum, and as I pulled away from the curb, I didn't look in the rearview mirror. There was nothing back there I needed to carry forward. My entire life had been a desperate search for recognition in a house that only noticed when they needed something. But now, I understood the greatest truth of all: I didn't need to be part of that narrative. I was finally free to write my own. Halfway back to Boston, I stopped at a small gas station off the highway near Worcester. The heater buzzed softly while I filled the tank, and when I returned to the car, my phone buzzed with a flurry of notifications. 12 missed calls. 5 voicemails. 3 text messages, from my mom, my dad, and Marcus. I didn't open them. Instead, I opened my contacts list. One by one, I started tapping and pressing block. My mother. My father. My brother. Even Eliza. I blocked them all, the way a person carefully unhooks shackles from their wrists, not with fury, but precision. By the time I returned to my apartment, night had fallen. The snow blanketed the streets, and the city glowed with soft amber light. I hung up my coat, slipped off my boots, and stepped out onto the balcony. From up there, the world looked quiet, still, like a clean slate. I could breathe. The next few days were a blur of emails and meetings. My team at Onyx Vault was deep into a new integration project with 3 fintech startups. It was the kind of work that demanded precision, leadership, and long hours, but I thrived in it. I wasn't just building security systems. I was building my legacy. The Friday after Christmas, I met my closest friends at a dimly lit bar in Jamaica Plain. Lisa, my roommate from RIT, and Alyssa, my teammate at Onyx. These were the people who had seen me at my worst and never once made me feel small. I told them everything. From the cold laughter at Christmas to the envelopes I placed on the coffee table like silent grenades. Lisa slapped the table when I finished. Good. About damn time. Alyssa nodded. If love comes with terms and guilt trips, it's not love. It's control. I looked at them, really looked, and realized these were my people. Not because of blood, but because they saw me. Always had. We raised our glasses. To peace, I said. Lisa smiled. To the family we choose. 3 days later, I got a call from my cousin Talia. The only one I hadn't blocked. Kesha, she said, her voice low and cautious. I'm just giving you a heads up. Your mom's been calling around the family, telling everyone you stormed out on Christmas. That you're selfish. That you embarrassed Marcus in front of everyone. I let out a long breath, resting my head against the wall. She also said, you're laundering money. That there's no way you could afford a condo and investment property on your own. I closed my eyes. Of course she did. Talia was quiet for a moment, then added, she told Aunt Val you were probably involved in some kind of crypto scam. Said you've always been secretive and strange. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was expected. Let them believe whatever helps them sleep at night. You okay? Talia asked. Yes, I said. I'm more than okay. You sure about cutting them off? Completely? I didn't cut them off this week, I said. I just finally had the strength to name it. After we hung up, I poured myself a cup of tea, wrapped myself in a blanket, and stared at the blinking lights on the skyline. My life was quiet, but full. No more noise from people who only remembered my name when they needed something. And then, something unexpected happened. His name was Aiden. We met at the coffee shop on the ground floor of Onyx Vault. He was in front of me in line, ordering the same drink I always got, black iced coffee, no sugar, 1 extra shot. We both laughed at the coincidence, and something about his energy was easy. Grounded. Safe. We talked for 20 minutes that first day, and for hours after that. He worked in infrastructure security at a rival firm, but we both understood what it meant to build walls, not just digital ones, but emotional ones too. 3 months later, we moved in together. A 2-bedroom in Beacon Hill, one of the ones I'd been looking at even before Christmas. We adopted a cat. Maple, a fluffy white rescue with a crooked tail and a loud purr. Aiden made breakfast most mornings. I made dinner. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. Quiet, strong, chosen. And I never once had to shrink myself to be loved. Spring came quickly. The snow melted into cobblestone gutters, the Charles River glittered under longer daylight, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't bracing for the next blow. I was just living. Aiden and I settled into a rhythm that didn't require explanations or apologies. We built furniture together, argued over Spotify playlists, took late-night walks by the river, and cooked simple meals in silence. I used to think peace was something other people gave you. Now I knew it was something you built. In May, everything shifted again. I was called into a meeting with the executive board at Onyx Vault. I expected it to be about the fintech integration project I'd just wrapped, but instead, they offered me a promotion. Not just any promotion, head of engineering. It came with a massive salary increase, a signing bonus, and control over an entirely new vertical in AI-driven fraud prevention. My hands didn't shake. My voice didn't crack. I accepted with clarity and a thank you. But that night, when I walked home through the golden dusk of Boston's skyline and opened the front door to the smell of Aiden's garlic bread and jazz playing softly, I sat down on the couch, took one look at Maple curled up in a ball, and cried. Because I had done it. Everything they said I couldn't do. Everything they refused to even see. I told Aiden over dinner. He stood, lifted his glass, and clinked it against mine. To the girl they forgot, he said with a grin. No, I corrected, smiling. To the woman they underestimated. 2 weeks later, the promotion was announced publicly. LinkedIn notifications flooded my inbox. Colleagues I hadn't spoken to since RIT sent congratulations. Recruiters tried to poach me. Industry blogs picked up a blurb about Kesha Monroe, the rising architect of East Coast security protocols. And as expected, word trickled down the old vine. I got a phone call from a blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. But curiosity got the better of me. I played the message. Hey, it's Marcus. Look, I heard you got promoted. Mom mentioned it. That's huge. Really proud of you. There was a pause. Anyway, Dad's not doing great. Blood pressure stuff. And the roof at the house is leaking, insurance isn't covering it. I was wondering if you could. I don't know. Help? Just a little. You're doing great now, and we're all kind of drowning. I didn't cry. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt done. He called again the next day. This time, I answered. Hello? Kesha. His voice lifted with false cheer. Been trying to reach you. Look, I know we haven't always seen eye to eye. Marcus, I interrupted. Just say what you need. He exhaled heavily. 80 grand. For the roof and the hospital bills. I'll pay you back. Not fast, but I will. I promise. I stood at the window, staring down at the street below, where people hurried along like they had places to be and people waiting. I thought about all the times I waited. For recognition. For affection. For proof I mattered. No, I said simply. What? His voice cracked. I'm not the family ATM. I'm not a safety net. I'm not your redemption arc. He was silent for a moment. Then he snapped, you can't be serious. After everything. Exactly, I said, voice low and firm. After everything. And I hung up. I blocked the number again. This time, it didn't feel defiant. It felt like sealing a door I should have closed a decade ago. Later that week, Talia messaged me again. Your mom is telling people you won the lottery. Says there's no way you earned that money on your own. I replied with a single sentence, let them believe whatever dulls their shame. That weekend, Aiden and I drove to Cape Cod. We rented a cabin on the beach. We baked pastries and watched movies under thick blankets. At night, I sat on the deck and listened to the wind tug at the seagrass. No one here knew my name. And yet, I felt more seen than I ever had around my own family. I used to think being loved by your family was the ultimate validation. Now I know, it's not about who loves you. It's about who values you. And that starts with yourself. Summer came, and with it, a sense of expansion, not just outside, but within me. The apartment Aiden and I shared felt lighter somehow, filled with laughter and music and a kind of stability I never knew I needed. We spent lazy Sundays at the farmer's market, played chess under fairy lights strung across our balcony, and made dinner together even when we were both exhausted. One evening, after a long day of system testing and meetings, I curled up beside Aiden on the couch while Maple purred at our feet. He turned to me and said, you know, you breathe differently now. I laughed. What's that supposed to mean? You're not holding your breath anymore. He was right. There had been a time when I existed like a ghost, lingering in the corners of my own life, unsure if I had permission to speak, to take up space. Now, I didn't wait for permission. I owned my air. That same week, Onyx Vault invited me to speak at a Women in Tech conference in New York. The theme was breaking the loop, women writing their own code. It was surreal standing before an audience of over 200 engineers, entrepreneurs, and students, talking about the importance of boundaries, of being underestimated, and of transforming silence into strategy. I shared a story, one I hadn't told many people before, about how I used to pretend to be asleep at family parties so I wouldn't have to answer when someone asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Because anything I said was laughed at or dismissed. Now, I stood before a crowd and said, I didn't grow up to be what they wanted. I grew up to become what they feared, someone they couldn't ignore. The applause was thunderous. After the event, I checked my phone. 4 missed calls. All from my mom. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. Then I let it ring again. And again. I didn't answer. Instead, I opened a new note and started writing something for myself. Not code. Not a speech. A letter. One that I'd never send, but needed to write. Dear Mom. You once said I should be grateful I was raised. That not everyone gets that. But what I got wasn't love, it was survival with a smile. And I've learned that being fed and clothed doesn't mean being cherished. You raised me, yes. But you never saw me. And now, I see myself so clearly, I'll never again let your fog cloud my worth. I closed the file and saved it under a folder labeled Peace. A few days later, Harper reached out. Her name lit up my phone, and for the first time in months, I answered with ease. Kesha, she said, breathless. You're on the cover of TechCurrent. The article about your AI integration is front page. I chuckled. They asked for a photo. I almost said no. I'm glad you didn't. You look powerful. There was a pause, then she added, your mom saw it too. Apparently, she clipped it and tried to pass it around at church. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped the phone. Harper laughed too, but then her voice dropped. She also said something else. That she'd always believed you had potential. That maybe she was too hard on you. I was quiet for a long moment. Not because I was shocked. But because I felt nothing. I don't need her to say that, I finally said. It's too late. And I'm too far. But she's still your mother, Harper said gently. No, I replied. She's the woman who raised me. The word mother belongs to someone who nurtures. She doesn't get that title anymore. Harper didn't push. Well, for what it's worth, I'm proud of you. Always have been. I smiled. You're the only one who ever called me by my name like it meant something. That night, Aiden found me on the balcony again, staring at the skyline, glass of wine in hand. He wrapped his arms around me and whispered, "What are you thinking about?" I took a deep breath. That I spent so much of my life trying to be someone worth inviting to the table. And now, he asked. Now I'm building my own table. And I only invite people who bring peace, not permission slips. We stood there for a long time, wrapped in silence. But this time, the silence wasn't empty. It was full of freedom. Autumn arrived in Boston wrapped in golden leaves and sharp, honest air. The kind of season that doesn't apologize for change. It just arrives, unapologetically bold. I loved that about it, its clarity, its refusal to linger in the past. It felt like me now. I had come full circle. Not back to where I started, but somewhere entirely different. I wasn't just healed. I had outgrown the cage they built for me. Aiden and I were walking through the park one afternoon, Maple in a little carrier backpack because, yes, we had become those people. The city buzzed around us, students, professionals, runners. But none of the noise touched the quiet we shared. It was the kind of day where you don't talk much, because peace says enough. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. But I knew. Carson. I answered, not out of guilt, not out of hope. Just because I was ready. Kesha, he said, his voice tired, thin. It's me. I know, I said calmly. I heard about your speaking tour. And that new investment property. That's something. What do you want, Carson? He hesitated. Mom had another episode. Stress-related. Dad's still in and out of the hospital. It's been rough. And, FinPilot didn't get the backing we needed. We had to shut it down. There it was. The collapse. The unraveling of the Golden Boy script. I'm sorry to hear that, I said evenly. I meant it. Just not in the way he probably hoped. I'm reaching out because, well, we could use some help. Even just short-term. You're doing well. I figured. No, I said before he could finish. He was silent. Look, I know we were hard on you growing up. You weren't hard, Carson. You were cruel. And I let it slide because I thought that if I kept proving myself, one day you'd treat me like a person. But I'm done trying to earn space at a table that was never built for me. Kesha. I don't hate you, I said, interrupting him again. But I also don't owe you. I am not the financial backup plan for a family that only finds my number when the bank account runs dry. He didn't say a word. For once, he had no punchline. And neither did I. I hung up, then blocked the number. That was the final lock on the final door. Later that night, I sat by the window with Maple nestled against my leg, a soft jazz record playing in the background. Aiden came over and sat beside me, sipping tea, his shoulder against mine. I opened my laptop and looked at the draft of a piece I'd been working on. It wasn't code. It wasn't a system. It was a memoir. Title, The Gift They Never Gave Me. In the first chapter, I wrote. They didn't forget to give me a gift. They never intended to. Because in their eyes, I was never meant to be the one who received anything. And now that I've built something beyond what they ever imagined, they want a piece of it. But what they don't understand is that I was the gift all along. They just refused to unwrap it. That fall, I signed a book deal. The following spring, I launched a program through Onyx Vault to mentor girls in tech from underserved communities. We named it Room at the Table. Because every girl deserves to know she doesn't have to sit silently at the edge. And that Thanksgiving, Aiden and I hosted dinner in our Beacon Hill apartment. Lisa, Alyssa, Harper, and a few new friends came. We cooked everything ourselves. Maple pawed at the turkey scraps on the floor. There was laughter, wine, even tears of joy. After dessert, Harper pulled me aside and said, "I'm so glad you let go of the people who never saw you. You were always more than what they gave." I nodded. I finally know that. As the night ended, I stood on the balcony once again, looking out over the city that once terrified me and now felt like home. I used to think recognition had to come from those who raised you. But sometimes, survival means accepting that the people who were supposed to love you couldn't even see you. And healing means walking away anyway. Now, I'm not just healed. I'm whole. Not because they gave me a gift, but because I became the gift they'll never get again. Not everyone is lucky enough to be born into love. But everyone has the power to find peace, create boundaries, and reclaim their worth. Kesha's story reminds us that silence doesn't mean weakness, and walking away can be the first step to truly coming home to yourself. Have you ever felt invisible to the people who were supposed to care? What would you have done in Kesha's place? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Revenge Echoes for more true, powerful stories that hit where it hurts and heal where it matters.